Welcome to Fast and Hard with your hosts, Coach Matt Tyner and Will Pritchard.
Hey, Will. Thanks very much. I appreciate the kind intro there. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is episode 5, and boy, do we have a good one for you. I'm going to introduce you to a couple of special guests, great friends of mine, one being Tony Baldwin. One of the first kids I ever coached is now the head softball coach at the University of Georgia. We'll hear from him in a few minutes. Shawn Stiffler, who is the head baseball coach at Virginia Commonwealth. I met Shawn while he was coaching against me while I was at the University of Richmond. He has taken a mid-major program and raised the bar for achievements there. He does everything the right way, full of integrity. One of the guys I'd love to work with, given the opportunity. Super coach. And then way back memory lane, I'm going to take you or introduce you to Steve Farley, who was the first guy to ever have enough confidence and enough faith in me to give me a chance as a coach. I hope you enjoy that conversation because he is a fine fellow, Christian man, raised a beautiful family, put 31, 32 years in coaching and then retired. Just a great guy to talk with. Hope you enjoy that one. And last but not least is Towson's very own Brady Policelli, who is waiting for the work stoppage to quit. He is with the Detroit Tigers. He's going to tell us a little bit about what he's doing and what it was like, of course, to play for the Towson Tigers when he was here. So what a great show today. I hope you guys enjoyed as much as I did putting it together for everybody. So sit back, relax, enjoy. I'm going to give you the update here in just a couple minutes, and we'll go from there. See ya.
We'll be right back after a word from our sponsors.
This segment's brought to you by Towson alum Chris Russ, your real estate specialist. You can find Chris at chrisruss.com or call him at 410-908-7723. Chris specializes and takes great pride in helping others relocate to new towns, as he once did over a dozen times while pursuing his dream to play Major League Baseball with the Texas Rangers. With many buyers flooding the area due to the great schools, strong job economy, and a robust defense industry, Chris has teamed up with lenders that specialize in VA loans and a home inspector that served our military proudly. Whether you are looking to commute to Howard County, Fort Meade, Baltimore, Bethesda, or Washington, D.C., Chris is familiar with the communities and the commuter locations that will serve you best. That's Chris Russ at chrisruss.com, 410-908-7723. Another proud TU alum. That's Chris Russ at chrisruss.com, your real estate specialist. This was a trying week for the Towson Tigers. We started on Tuesday of last week, really somewhat exhausted. We had a real rough return flight and baggage situation on Sunday evening, early Monday morning. We didn't get back on campus until 5 o'clock. So I know some of the boys were walking around on Monday like zombies, but we started our week off with a formidable foe, George Washington. They always play us tough, and we always play them tough, but this time it was at their place. We got a good weather day and went down there and came out of the chute extremely well. 7-1 lead going into the fourth. Promptly gave up 4 runs. Tyler Russo was on the bump for us, kind of just ran out of mechanics. And, that's tough as a young pitcher. He's making his return from an injury from last year. So we weathered the storm with him and got through it, but took a 7-5 lead into the 9th inning and made a couple physical errors there, which happened. And that put runners on first and second, and then a big hit by their center fielder, which is a guy that can play. Probably a draft choice, if not this year, next year. He's a toolsy player, and he hit a bases clearing triple and tied the score 7-7, and we lost it in 10. So that started our week off with a bang. Had we made those plays in the bottom of the 9th, we walk away with a win there on that. So ask everybody to dig deep and respond, and we practiced hard on Wednesday, and practice was good. Took a nice trip on Thursday down to Greensboro, North Carolina to play UNCG, and came right out of the chute on Friday with 2 runs in the top of the first. and didn't add to it. We didn't add to it until the 7th when Castleberry hit a home run, and we lost that game 8-3. One of the goals this year for this offense was to win the middle innings, and that's the mark of any really good team. Everybody's up innings 1, 2, and 3, and everybody can be up in innings 7, 8, and 9. You know, you're running out of time then. Good teams find a way to score runs in the 4th, the 5th, and the 6th, because that's when everybody exhales. And that's when good teams smell blood. They go after it. You know, they're like piranhas. They take advantage of every mistake that you make. And that's what we saw UNCG do. They scored in the 4th, the 5th, and the 6th, and the 7th, Friday and Saturday. Only on Sunday did we press them. And we scored in the 6th. They scored in the 4th. And it was 1-1 in the 4th, 5th, and 6th. If the Tigers are going to win any games at all, that's what we've got to do. And then we did respond. We came out and big 2-out hit in the top of the 8th on Sunday by Elijah Dickerson. Cleared the bases after Chandler Castleberry had a 2-out hit, and then James Moses got hit in the foot. Elijah came through like a champ, drove in 2 runs, gave us a 1-run lead, and then, you know, as young players do, sometimes they try to do too much, and we just had a mishap in the field in the bottom half of that inning, which sealed our fate, and we just couldn't respond from it. And I get it, it happens, but we're about to get to that point where we need to corral those types of mistakes. And as I shared with the guys, I said, baseball is not a game where you can be thrown the ball, you can dribble the full length of the court and fire out the 3-pointer and get fouled and make a 4-point play and win the game. It's not done that way. You know, the triple doesn't matter. Castleberry's not on, or Moses is not on. So it's just a big hit, but it's even bigger when we all play together. Everybody has to know their lanes on the infield. Everybody has to know where we throw the baseball on the outfield or in the outfield, and we got to know what we do when we're pitching. You know, so we're not firing on all 8 cylinders at all right now, which makes it tough to win when you're playing competition that is equal to you, potentially just a tick above you. And that's where I would put UNCG. They're maybe just a tick above us. They won 27 games last year. If you were there, you got a chance to see they didn't make any mistakes. And that was it. And when they did make mistakes, we were able to take reasonably a good advantage of it. We only won 1 freebie award. Of course, that was on Sunday. And a game we could have and should have won, we didn't win. But starting a homestand now, and this will be a key stretch of games for us. We have 14 games here, and one is against the University of Maryland on the very, very tail end. And then we'll travel down to UVA and Richmond before we open conference back home against Delaware that next weekend. So as it stands, we've got UMBC tomorrow, Fairleigh Dickinson on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. No midweeks next week. We play a 4-game set against Princeton, and then we'll head down to UVA, and then we come in Richmond, and we come back and we finish it off with UMass. So we're excited. You know, that should be a really cool stretch of games. I think the weekends are winnable. The weekdays, we'll have to play well to win those, and we'll see what we can come up with. I know the guys really are trying, and sometimes you press just a little bit. So this week is going to be a little relaxed, but yet consciously aware of what we're doing. So come out and see us. Hopefully spring will break and we'll be ready to go. We look forward to seeing you in the stands at John B. Sherholtz Park. Admission is free, and come and watch us play. Look forward to it. This next guest is a special person. His name is Tony Baldwin. He is the head softball coach at the University of Georgia in Athens, Georgia. And it would be remiss if I didn't give him a proper intro. Tony was one of the very first kids I ever coached at Butler University. And I couldn't be more proud of him and his accomplishments throughout his career. And of course, one of them is obviously getting married and having a wonderful family. But this recent promotion to head coach at University of Georgia was just special. When he called us, and I may even tear up right now. When he called me, we shared about 5 minutes of tears. And then I thought we finally fought through the tears and were able to have a great constructive conversation. And it was just one of those father-son moments, for lack of a better word. And I couldn't wait to ask him to come on the show tonight, and he said okay. So that's what we've got, ladies and gentlemen. We've got Mr. Tony Baldwin, the head softball coach at the University of Georgia. How you doing tonight, kid?
I'm doing great. I appreciate the kind words. I mentioned it many times in private, but certainly very thankful for you and been a real blessing in my life. And so happy to be on and glad to hear your voice.
Well, thanks, man. I mean, I'm going to walk you down, through your playing days and your coaching days and everything like that. But first, I just want to make sure I'm on the same page. You're from Bloomington, Indiana, aren't you?
Correct. Bloomington, Indiana.
Went to Bloomington South High School, played a little bit of everything there, right?
No, I got to correct you there. Bloomington North. Southsiders were the enemy.
I know. I was just pulling your leg, see if you'd catch it. All right. Played a little hoop down there too?
I did, yep. Short, slow, and didn't shoot very well. And so that doesn't take you very far in that game. But I enjoyed it. And probably basketball and golf were the games that I enjoyed the most. I just happened to be a little bit better, and I do mean little, at baseball.
Well, you were certainly special when I got a hold of you, and it was a lot of fun coaching you. So you go from Bloomington to Butler. What was that like for you, and why did you choose Butler?
Well, my father was from Indianapolis, so we had a lot of family up there. It was far enough away from home. I joke, bring it up with recruits on the regular. So my parents said that you can go anywhere you want, but you can't go here. And that here was Indiana University, which was right in Bloomington. So I knew I was leaving town. I wanted to play college baseball. I got fortunate enough to get an opportunity to play as a walk-on at Butler, and it was a great school, and it was just a perfect fit for me.
Yeah. Well, when I got there, I was there in 1993, which happened to be your senior year, correct? Junior year. And you basically took over the responsibility of catching behind the plate that year, correct?
Correct.
Had a pretty good offensive year?
My last 2 years were my best two offensive years, and I attribute that to you wholeheartedly.
Well, it was fun watching you play. I do remember one time in a scrimmage game in the fall, the other assistant coach was a young man by the name of Doug Schreiber, who went on to his fortune and fame at Arizona State and Purdue, and he had picked the blue and white series teams, and I got Tony to be the catcher, so I put the lineup card up on the side of the dugout wall, and I had Tony Baldwin hitting fourth. When I got to the dugout, he was standing in front of the lineup card and go, "Who in the world," probably a couple choice words, "who in the world made this lineup up? Does he know what he's doing?" And I was standing right behind you. And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "You got me hitting fourth." And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "Why would you do that?" And I said, "Because I think you can hit fourth." And from that point on, you just tore it up, kid. You were, you just needed
it's funny what a little bit of belief will do for somebody, and that's been a big part of why I believe this is my 27th year of Division I coaching. And the big part of that was the inspiration I got from you. It was just having an impact on others the way you had an impact on me. And, in this, in today's world, the kids need somebody that believes in them. And you did that for me. And that's sort of been my goal, to try and carry that forward throughout my coaching career.
Well, I'm sure the kids appreciate it, and hearing that, I really appreciate it. Thanks for that. So if I remember correctly, it was me, Coach Farley, and you in an office, and you had recently graduated, and for some odd reason you said, hey, I've got this job offer downtown Indianapolis, but I don't think I really want to get into the financial world. I want to get into coaching. And both Farley and I looked at each other and said, oh my gosh, man, are you willing to take the sworn oath of poverty? And you said, yeah, yes. And the next thing you know, you were an assistant coach with us at Butler. Is that about right?
That's about right. Yeah. My goal at the time was to pursue a career as a golf course manager. I wanted to be a golf pro and run golf courses. So that was sort of the path I was trying to get. I figured I just needed to get a job to make some money, but while I worked on my playing, to be able to pass the playing portion of becoming a golf pro. But then the opportunity to coach certainly beat looking for a job. And little did I know that, it would lead me down this path, but here we are.
Well, I tell you, we share more than just an office. Tony and I were, I would say, the two main contributors to a patent that was called the Swift Stick, which was a hitting training device way back in the 90s. What do you remember? What's your fondest memory from the Swift Stick era?
Like most entrepreneurs, I remember a lot of trial and error. Some things going well and some things not as well. But, like anything else, it afforded us opportunity to meet a lot of good people. And, I think we talked a lot of baseball. We talked a lot of hitting. So, the Swift Stick was really a vehicle that, it brought us together with a lot of people, and, very thankful for that.
Absolutely. So from your coaching at Butler, you obviously had some wonderful players at that point in time. Were you part of the regional team there at Butler as a coach?
No, I left to go to Dartmouth in the fall of 1999, and that spring they went to the regional. So I certainly knew the players and had been involved with you and recruiting a lot of them, but I was not there for that year. Funny story is, in 2019, I was fortunate I got a chance to coach Team USA on the softball side, and one of the other coaches on the team was Tim Walton. He's the head softball coach at the University of Florida. And so we're sitting there having a dinner one night and shooting the bull and talking about his baseball background and my baseball background, and come to find out, if you can remember, we played in a play-in series at Oral Roberts, and it was a great series. And Tim Walton, the head softball coach at Florida, he was an assistant coach at Oral Roberts that year while I was an assistant coach at Butler. So
oh my God,
it's kind of neat going back and sharing those stories. So yeah, we had some good players, some really good teams. The game was a little bit different then. The NCAA tournament field was a little smaller, some of those kinds of things. But really fond of my time at Butler, and, Coach Farley just giving me an opportunity to coach and try things and mess things up. And, that's how I really learned how to be a coach, was through my opportunity at Butler.
Absolutely. So then you go from Butler to Dartmouth. You get out into the Ivy League, man. What was that like? You're a kid from the Midwest. Next thing you know, you're in the Northeast. You're at Dartmouth, and you're recruiting to one of the top-notch academic conferences in the United States. What were the challenges like for you there?
Well, it was certainly a culture change. I remember the hockey rink and the basketball arena were across the street from each other, and the basketball games would get about 150 people in the stands, and the hockey games would get about 5,000. And so that was certainly coming from Bloomington, Indiana, and Indiana as a state being a basketball crazy state. That was a change in and of itself. But, my experience at Dartmouth was wonderful. Any level I've been, I've always said that if you could surround yourself with players as motivated to be good or great as those kids were at Dartmouth, you'd love coaching. And that's what those kids were. They wanted to be great in everything they did, and it really challenged you to be good, to be a good communicator, and bring an A game to them every day because they deserve that. And then Coach Whalen, Bob Whalen, had been there for a long, long time. And, while I attribute a lot of my ability to teach and learn to teach to Coach Farley, my ability to make it in this career as a professional coach, I attribute it to Bob Whalen. He was a pro's pro. He was a business guy. He taught me about the profession of coaching, and I really appreciated that. And then the other opportunity that I afforded me was just to recruit on a national level. So, I got to go to California and Texas and Florida and all around the country and get to, not only evaluate players, but I got to meet college coaches from all of those different places and pick their ear on coaching and recruiting. And, I just attribute a lot of the things that I do now to my time there at Dartmouth.
Yeah, I can remember running across you on the road at Dartmouth, and while on your next stop, and we'll get into that in just a minute, and you make it sound very luxurious, but for those that have never done it, recruiting is not what you're thinking. It's not a business trip where you're getting up, having a nice sound breakfast, jumping into somebody's office for a couple hours, catching some lunch, maybe taking a dip in the pool, and then one or two more appointments, and then a fine dinner. It's grab a cup of coffee, eat a Danish, go spend 17, 18 hours on a baseball field somewhere with maybe a hot dog and a bottle of water, and then you get to go home, pass out, and do it again. Hopefully you get enough time to take a shower. Is that about right?
That's about right. I've been fortunate through this profession. I've been all over the country. I've been into just about every major city in the country, and I can tell you where the ball fields are, but don't ask me about the extracurriculars or the entertainment spots, because if it wasn't at a ball field, I didn't spend much time there.
Amen. So then from Dartmouth, man, you got what many would hope for, that opportunity of a lifetime, right, at Michigan State. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, it was a great opportunity to come back a little bit closer to home. I grew up in the Big Ten country, so I really held the Big Ten in high standards. And Michigan State was wonderful. It was great people. It was a great conference to compete in. We got to, play against some of the best teams and really had a great experience there.
Well, and then as it happens sometimes, I resigned to the fact a long time ago that I thought I was going to be a career assistant coach, and you were an assistant coach for a good head coach there. But then ultimately he found something better or different that he wanted to pursue, and that kind of left you guys, floating without a life preserver there. And obviously you guys were replaced at Michigan State, and it kind of threw you into a little bit of a tailspin, did it not?
It did, and certainly left me with some questions. But really, at the end of the day, I look at those now as just blessings. Is that, at the end of my baseball coaching career, I started to have questions on whether this is for me or this is the right path, or is there something else I'm supposed to be doing? And those thoughts, are never helpful for you to be able to perform your best. So, in my mind and looking back at it in hindsight, I feel like God was just telling me, like, hey, I got a different plan for you, and you need a break to rest up for it. And so that's how it went down. The head coach left. I didn't get bumped up, and so I was given an opportunity to reset, so to speak. And, I think the lesson that I pass on to young coaches, now is that, it's really easy in this career to want to chase the next job. And I was guilty of that. I wanted the better job, the more money, all of those things. And while I hope that it didn't impact my relationship with the players, it did impact my relationship with the profession. And so when I got out of coaching in 2008, I decided it was time to do something else. And so my wife and I started running a business here in Athens, Georgia, with a couple friends. And then that's what opened up the door by happenstance. So I usually tell people I transitioned to softball either by God's good grace or pure bad luck. And it just depends on the day as to how I feel about it.
Well, how you feel about it today, kid?
I feel pretty good about it today, that's for sure.
I bet.
But, to finish that thought, it's just that, when I took the step into softball, I just promised myself it was never going to be about the job again. It was just going to be about the opportunity that I felt like I was led to have coaching as a vehicle to make an impact, which that's how I started. I think I probably lost that a little bit along the way. And so I said, if I got another opportunity, then I'm going to make sure I don't mess it up this time. And I'm going to make sure that it's about investing in others. And, when you do that, it's amazing. When you just put your head down and you invest in the place that you are, the opportunities that come your way. So I've been fortunate in the softball world. I've had some really great opportunities. I've met a lot of great people, but I always felt like this was the place I was supposed to be. And last year, it was sort of cemented that it was in fact the place I was supposed to be. So it's been an exciting run.
Oh my gosh. And it's been so much fun for me to follow. So you start at UGA, you work in there, you still kind of got some business ties, and I certainly can relate to that. I mean, when I was coaching the first go round at Butler, people don't understand that when you're only making $3,000 a year, you probably, your wife's going to shoot you if you don't have some kind of income. So
For sure.
I had to do, you and I waited tables at the same place, didn't we?
Absolutely.
That's right. I forgot about that till just now. So you become the volley at UGA first. Is that correct? But you've got a major influence on their hitting. Talk to me a little bit about that and your successes.
Well, they had gone to the Women's College World Series in 2009 and 2010. And so I joined for the 2011 season. So really my role was like the chief back patter and, clap and supporter more than anything else. But we started off that year, 2011. I think we started off 29-1, and we're number one in the country for about a month. And I thought, man, this softball gig is not too bad. I could get used to this. And so I was the volunteer, still working full time, just basically coming over and helping with practices and games. And then after the 2012 season, so I did the 11 season and the 12 season. After the 2012 season, my wife said, "You're ready to do this full time, aren't you?" And I said, "Well, yes, but I'm not going to go all the way backwards." At that point, we already had 2 children, so I had to be able to make it work financially. And lo and behold, I got an opportunity to go to UNC Chapel Hill. And what a wonderful experience that was. I worked for a wonderful, wonderful lady named Donna Papa. And she's, in the Hall of Fame in the college softball. And just so thankful for her investing in me, giving me the opportunity. So I was there for 13 and 14. And then I got the call to come back here in a full-time role. And that was in the fall of 2014, and been here ever since.
What fun. And, of course, we've added to that family now. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, shoot. I mean, makes you feel old when you start rattling this off. But I have a soon-to-be 16-year-old. She's 15 now. Ella is a sophomore in high school. A wonderful student. Takes after her mom on that side of things. And then I have Abby, who's 13, who's an 8th grader. Brady, who's a 5th grader. He's 11. And then I have Katie, who's a 3rd grader, who is 8.
Holy cow. Man, you talk about feeling old. I can remember when you had 1. Holy moly.
Yes. Those are the easy days now. Heck, when 2 are over at friend's house, we're like, man, what would this have been like if we only had these 2 or this 1? But no, it's been a blessing, and we're very thankful. And they're at the end of the day, they're good kids, and they're the best part of the day.
Absolutely. I got a couple tough questions for you, and of course you can defer if you don't want to. But what's the difference between coaching male athletes and female athletes?
Oh, I mean, there are differences, obviously. But at the end of the day, there's not as many differences as what people think. What I find is that people want people to be invested in them. And that's the part that, I appreciate both on the male side and the female side. The games have their nuances, but it's not a significant change from that standpoint. I think one of the things I will say is our women are, I don't know if this is accurate, but they seem to be highly competitive, maybe more competitive than most of the men that I coached along the way, or at least more outwardly competitive. I mean, they can just be downright ruthless at times in terms of their competitiveness. So I don't know where that comes from. That I'm not trying to say that men aren't competitive. I just think they're cultured a little bit different through the process. But I tell you what, that was the thing that struck me when I first started coaching here at Georgia, was that these women are highly competitive. They're highly passionate about what they're doing, and they want to be great. And so they just want you to be invested in them and help them find their greatness. And, that's what we try to do.
That's good stuff, man. That's good stuff. Last tough question for you. Best baseball player you ever coached and best softball player you ever coached?
Whew, golly, those are tough ones. Man, I've been fortunate. I would say, certainly Pat Neshek was special. I was part of the recruiting process for him at Butler, and was there his first season, or the first fall, and then I left to go to Dartmouth. So I didn't actually get to coach him in games, but certainly was proud of him. There's a bunch of them I could rattle off from the Butler days that people would never know about, but man, they were good players. Jeremy Sensabaugh, Steve McGill, Ryan Harper, Ryan Zahn, gosh, just lots of those. Justin Beasley. Those guys come to mind. And I tell you what, we had a kid at Dartmouth that was as good as anybody. His name was Brian Nickerson. And, man, if every coach would get an opportunity to coach somebody like him, you'd be lucky. We did have a player at Dartmouth named Ed Lucas, who ended up playing in the big leagues for a while and is now involved in pro ball. So I've been fortunate along those lines. Man, I don't know. On the softball side, gosh, we've been pretty fortunate. I have a media thing in the morning, so they just sent me some press information, so some of this stuff is fresh in my mind. I think in my time here since 2015, we've had 11 All-Americans, and we've been fortunate to have some pretty good players. Courtney Emanuel is probably the best athlete I've ever coached. I think she stole like 50 bases. She was a 2 or 3 time All-American that we had. Alyssa DiCarlo was a real pro, and thankful she's on our staff now as our hitting coach. Alice Hugo was as explosive as anybody. There's a bunch of them. Gosh, I feel like if you start doing that, then you're going to miss somebody. But those are certainly some ones that come to mind that were pretty darn good.
Well, hopefully you stay right there. And you had started your career as a Butler Bulldog, and it looks like you're going to end your career as a Georgia Bulldog. So I can't thank you enough for coming on today and sharing a little bit about your history and your background and your coaching philosophies, and obviously updating us on that wonderful and beautiful family of yours. Tony, thanks again. One quick question. I want to make sure that it's okay to give you a jingle throughout the course of this season, kind of get an update, see where the dogs are at. That'd be okay?
Absolutely. Of course. Anytime.
All right, brother. Well, listen, from Will and I, go Dogs. Have a great spring. Thanks again for coming on. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate you.
Take care. Bye-bye. We'll be back with you in just a second, but right now, a little word from our sponsor. Hey, Will, we picked up another sponsor tonight.
All right, who is it?
Advanced Collision in Beltsville, Maryland. Serving cars, buses, fleets, RV, recreational vehicles, and emergency vehicles. They upfit in the Washington, D.C. and the Baltimore areas. Advanced Collision LLC excels at providing paint, dent repair, and auto body work services for your automobile. They use the best products available today for your automobile, and they only use certified, skilled, highly trained technicians backed by state-of-the-art equipment on your repair. And for a couple months, the Jungle Cat and his family kept those techs in business. They offer custom paint and design, professional body work, and repair services for all types of cars, trucks, buses, and recreational vehicles. So if you have a vehicle that needs repaired, do what the Jungle Cat does. Call 301-595-9377 to schedule an appointment. Advanced Collision, your best bet when it comes to automotive repair. My next guest is Shawn Stiffler, and he is the current head coach at Virginia Commonwealth University in Richmond, Virginia. And before I get into any questions with him, I'm going to have him remember, or see if he does remember, a conversation that I had with him while on the field one day. There are certain people that I have met throughout my coaching career that you just want to be close to. You want to follow in their footsteps, and I'm considerably older than he is, but it doesn't matter. He's just that good. And I told him one time, I said, if there's ever an opening on your staff, I hope that and pray that you pick up the phone and give me a chance. I said, because this guy can coach, and I want to be affiliated with winners like this. So with that kind of intro, I'd like to introduce to you guys Shawn Stiffler with VCU. Welcome to the show.
Well, Coach, thank you much. And I do remember that conversation very vividly, and how much you took me back at the time, and how humbled I was for you to say that. And you and think the world of you, and lucky to call you a friend, to say the least. So this is awesome that you're doing this. Excited to hopefully knock out a few minutes and try to entertain somebody.
I'm sure we will. To see you on this side of the coin, though, is going to be a first for me. I'm going to put you up there as like fierce competitor, guy I wouldn't want to face. I've been in the opposite dugout and been pummeled and been in those just fingernail biting 9, 10, 11 inning games at the Diamond. It's just what a joy to compete against you, and I'm sure those that have the opportunity to be associated with you leave there better men. And
well, thanks. I hope that's kind of why we all started this. And the competition piece, you're right. I mean, that's the fun part. We all work so hard day in and day out, and try and lead our programs, lead our universities, and do what's best for these student athletes. When you get an opportunity to get back in the field and get those juices pumping, that's the reward, right, for old guys like us. So you're right. We've had a lot of fun on the field, and I'm not going to say I miss competing against you, but certainly I've always enjoyed it. So I thank you for the introduction.
Well, thank you for coming on tonight. Let me first say this. I know you're a big family man, so I want to give you a chance right now to introduce your wife and your children.
Yeah, I appreciate that. My wife Jen, who makes it all happen. As all baseball coaches probably say, I've outkicked my coverage with her, and she actually turns 40 this year, and we're getting ready to hopefully, now that COVID has slowed down a little bit, hopefully be able to celebrate her. But she stays at home and is with. You'll recognize him if you come to games. He's the VCU bat boy. And then I have my middle daughter Scout, and she's following mom's footsteps. Thank goodness she gets her mom's athleticism. But she's going to be a soccer player. And then my youngest daughter, Penn, who's 5, who's kind of the joy to the whole family and the glue that keeps us all together. But they're all doing well, and we're in the thick of basketball practice right now and getting ready to switch over to baseball. And mom and dad kind of meet each other. We kind of pass in the night a little bit as we're trying to navigate this thing. But as all baseball coaches will tell you, and I know with you, Coach, and how much you have loved and been loved in your family, it is if you don't have the support at home, it's almost impossible to do what we do, and I'm very lucky from that standpoint.
Well, thanks for sharing that, and you are 100% correct. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't get it, and I hate to see baseball drive a wedge in families at any given time, or any profession for that matter. So you guys are on the same page, and it's always been fun to be around. So a kid from Somerset, Pennsylvania, am I correct?
That's right. Yes, sir.
Grow up playing baseball there. Find your way to George Mason. If I was to ask the 18-year-old Stiff, was that your dream school, man, or?
It was the exact place I needed to be at the right time. And like all 18-year-olds, I thought I was better than I probably was. And, I knew I wanted to get an education. I knew I wanted to, I thought about going to junior college. I thought about, maybe going to a smaller school in Pennsylvania, but I wanted to challenge myself the best I could. It was something I really wanted to get into, and I was leaning towards communications, and Fairfax, Virginia, outside of DC at the time, I thought was a good place to start, and really fell in love with the head coach there. It was one of my dear friends, and someone I still compete against, the legendary Bill Brown, who at that time he had an old school approach to him, and he had some young assistants now when I was coming through, guys by the name of Dayton Moore, J.J. Piccolo, and I mean, if you know those, Dayton's the president of the Kansas City Royals now, and J.J.'s the GM. So just surrounded by really good baseball people there. I thought it was an opportunity for me to grow, and to be honest with you, it was the right choice because it set me up for everything else that I was going to do in my life at the time. Like every other 18-year-old, you think you're getting drafted, and it's going to be a stop by. But I wouldn't say it was my dream school, but I tell you, when you grow up in a town like Somerset, Pennsylvania, when there's just a couple stoplights, and I had never played underneath, got to Fairfax, Virginia, was like traveling to the moon. And so really, really thankful for my time there, for what that school did for me, and then getting an opportunity to coach there. So, I wouldn't change anything, to be honest with you, but dream school, I don't know if I can answer that. Like I said, it has answered all my dreams by going there, but I couldn't tell you it was necessarily a dream school at the time.
Well, and the reason why I ask you that is because everybody that I've ever talked to from the state of Pennsylvania always had an eye on one of two schools in Pennsylvania, and we'll leave that alone. All right.
Yeah, I wasn't that way, and I know exactly what you're talking about. At that time, I'd grown up. My whole family was in the game. My grandfather pitched in the major leagues. My uncle was an All-American at Clemson. So I had felt like I had wanted to get out and wanted to go. So distance didn't matter to me really at that point. So I did want to get out of the state. I got to be honest with you. I grew up in the snow and the cold, and I was tired of it, and so I wanted to get a little bit south. I don't know if Fairfax, Virginia is too far south, but it was south enough for me at the time.
Absolutely. And I got to tell you, George Mason is one heck of a school. I mean,
sure.
And to say,
I can never get in there now.
Absolutely.
I can, the admissions are way different now, and I just was really blessed to have that opportunity and the commitment they made to me. And my mother just had a baby brother at the time, and so it had answered a lot of needs for me, and just unbelievably thankful for the opportunity they gave me. Because they could have cut me loose a couple times too. If you look at my overall stats, they should have got rid of me.
Well, but those stats and that career at George Mason led you to the Minnesota Twins, didn't it?
Well, I was drafted out of high school.
Okay.
So yeah, I was drafted out of high school. A bad college player.
Okay.
I was fortunate enough to get taken in high school, and that was around the time they could do what was called a draft and follow.
Sure.
As well, where they would send you to a junior college, and that went right down to the wire for me. I thought about going to a junior college, and and then the Twins would have the rights to me. They could sign me before the draft, the next draft. But I ended up making the decision to go to George Mason, and it was certainly the right one, because it wasn't long after that. The arm, I just started getting some troubles in the arm. I never felt comfortable again, and getting my degree was certainly something I needed to do very quickly.
So from George Mason, take me through your coaching ranks.
Yeah, so mine's a little bit different, like everybody's is. I happened to get hurt my senior year while pitching at George Mason, and I'd always known I'd wanted to coach. Like I said, my grandfather, my uncle had coached me all through my life. I always felt like I had a pretty good head for the game, and stood next to my coaches while I was learning in their bullpens or during games. So while I was hurt, I kind of took it upon myself to manage the bullpen and run the bullpen my senior year, and Bill Brown took notice to that. Him and Joe Rakuya, and at the end of my senior year, they asked me what I wanted to do, and I told them I'd like to get into coaching, and maybe they could make some calls at a Division II school or something for me closer to Pennsylvania. Maybe I'd get a master's. And Billy Brown had just said, "No, I want you to come back here." He said, "If you want to coach Division I baseball, you got to get into Division I baseball quickly." And so he made me their volunteer the next fall. And while I was finishing my degree, I was helping out. And right around that time, the pitching coach who I had, life just kind of moved on for him, and he needed to move away. And looked at me sitting there late in the office, try, licking envelopes for recruiting letters that we had to do back then. And coach asked me what I thought about doing the pitching for them. And I was belated. I think the job paid $10,000 in cash was what the job paid. But it sounded like $2 million to me.
Absolutely.
I was living in I'll never forget, our trainer's parents had an abandoned house they were remodeling. I was living in that. I had a mattress on the floor, and I had a TV that had no cable to it, but I had a VCR. And so I would, the baseball factory would send me videotapes of players, and I would analyze them and write up reports on them at night, and then coach all day. And, that went on for about a year or two. And then one day, right before school started, I think in 2003 or 4, Joe Rakuya walked in, and he was our recruiting coordinator, and had gotten the recruiting coordinator, had gotten the head coach in New York. And I just looked at Coach Brown and grabbed the radar gun, and wherever Joe was supposed to recruit that day, I ran out and started recruiting. And about a week or two later, Billy called me and said he was going to promote me to recruiting coordinator. I was there a couple of years with him. We won 2 regular season championships. We're an at-large in the Charlottesville Regional. And then Paul Keyes called me and offered me an opportunity to come down to VCU. And I just thought at that time, to be honest with you, I was very happy at George Mason. It might have been a lateral move, but I thought at that time I needed to move away from my alma mater, maybe for people to take me a little bit more serious in the game.
Sure.
And I'd also met my wife at the time. And to be honest with you, Coach, getting married in Richmond, Virginia is a lot easier than Fairfax, Virginia, just from a cost of living standpoint. And I knew I wanted to get married, and so I took the chance, with Paul, and jumped down here and got a chance to work under him and learn from him. Assistant for 7 or 8 great years. We won 2 championships, and then well documented in 2012, Paul got sick. With stage 5 melanoma cancer out of the blue for us. And at that point, I had to step away from the club. Norwood Teague, our athletic director at the time, believed in me enough to go in and finish out the season in 12. And at that point, we'd hired a new AD, and we were, Coach Keyes was in the hospital. I was named intern head coach. He eventually passed away. In the fall of 2012, and at that point I was named head coach, and I've been here since. But I talk about the passing of Paul because I would never want anyone to come into becoming a head coach the way I did, because I lost a mentor and a great friend. What I learned in those 6 months about life, about friendship, about God, and about this game probably has set me up more for anything that I've done in the previous 19 years of coaching. To be quite honest with you, it was just a time where you really learn about what you actually need and what is actually important, and both in life and on the field and around your team. And it was a time where our other assistants, Jeff Palumbo, was with me. We just recruited and worked and prayed and were there for Coach and his family. And it was every day was the next thing, and small steps, and got through that tragedy with Paul, and never lost a recruit, never lost a player, and yet built. I would say this: I gained more relationship with Paul Keyes in the last 6 months than I did in the first 6 years, and I would never give those back. I'd give anything for him to be back, but I would never get to where he and I got to relationship-wise. So, kind of a unique story, and one that always, the more I think about it, I reflect on it, it kind of beats me up a little bit more, but one I'm very proud of, and here we are now. I'm in my, I believe, going into my 10th year, and our university has grown. I believe the program has grown. I think we're in a good place. We've been very stable. It's one thing I'm very proud of is I brought some stability to it in a tough time, and so just hoping they give me 10 more years.
Well, I'm sure you're going to get 10 more years at either VCU or someplace else, because the game needs coaches like you that are great men, that understand what life is about rather than just, baseball is our lives, but there is more to life than baseball. And I know that's a paradox, but you've just covered it, and what it comes down to is the building of that relationship. But even more so than that, it just comes down to one word: love. And how do we love our fellow human being, our brothers, and what you did for Paul and his family, very well documented, and people just speak volumes for your ability to help and to make it a smooth transition. And look at you now. You have been able to take a tragedy, turn it into a positive, not only for you, your staff, for those that you have associated with, but for that university. And you've built a program that at the mid-major level competes with the Power 5 schools on an annual basis. Ladies and gentlemen, and I'll use this as a fact, 8 programs in the last 7 seasons have averaged the amount of wins that VCU has. 34 wins a year. 8 programs across NCAA Division I baseball. That's where VCU is right now. And it's led by this young man. And it's amazing for me to be able to call you friend and associate and competitor and all the above. You're the A10 2019 Coach of the Year, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
And you East Region Coach of the Year. So there's only 4 regions, so your brethren thought of you good enough to name you that. So, it just to hear you speak is another reason why I think you have that charisma that you don't give yourself credit for, that, and you certainly don't go out on a limb and do a lot of these interviews, because I know you're a very private person, but to let people hear you, doggone it, I hope that I don't have any recruits listen to this, because I know I'm going to lose them, but I can't say, just unbelievable, man. You're one of the coaches I'd work for. So,
well, thank you. Well, thank you, Coach. Like I said, it's, that time with Paul is a private time, and it's, but it's one of, like I said, I'm very, very proud of the stability of the program, and Coach of the year and 34 wins. Those are good players, good players. And I'm not going to downplay my spot in it. But I think, again, when you have consistency, you have consistent message, you have things like that, the players respond and are comfortable. And that's all we try to do. So, but thank you for saying that.
I'm going to shift gears here just because
Yeah.
it's time. I got to ask you one quick question. In your opinion, who has the best hair of coaches in Division I baseball?
It goes without saying, Bill Brown.
Is that not amazing, man? I know he's a couple of years younger than me, but every time I play him, I'm like, you got to be kidding me, man. You got to be kidding me. How does this happen? I mean, your head's under the same hat my head has been under for about the same amount of time, but yet you've got this beach boy surfer dude hair, and I'm stuck with what I've got. Not fair. Not fair.
He continues to get younger. He doesn't age, and it's funny. He used to always tell me at some point when they bury me, they're going to lift me up out of the casket by my hair. No, he's very blessed. The locks of Bill Brown they are legendary in this area.
That's correct, man. That's correct. Okay, I'd be remiss if I didn't say, give me a quick VCU update. What are the Rams going to look like this spring?
That's interesting. We brought in, we have 20, like a lot of schools, I'm sure, we have, I think, 21 newcomers right now. And we're not a young team, but we're an unexperienced, lost 6 guys out of the everyday lineup last year, a team that was really veteran and really, really good. And so I like our athleticism, but we have guys who, because of the pandemic, we have guys who showed up here in 2019 and just haven't had a chance to play much just because of how stacked rosters have been the last 2 seasons. And guys have returned, and so it's now their time. I like our development with them. I like their talent, but they haven't proven themselves yet. So it's as unnerved as I've been in a long time, as far as how we've scheduled and the type of roster and how new it is right now. But again, let's go out there and play. We'll take our lumps. I think we're going to throw strikes. I think we're going to play enough defense to keep us in the game. It's just going to be about how quickly that offense kind of comes around. But, everybody else, I think, games do you figure out what type of team you have. Each team every year has to figure out how to win differently. Even though your program stays the same, your teams are different. And so just how quick can this team figure out how to win and see if they can execute it. And that'll be the telltale sign.
Well, we wish you nothing but good luck and success this year, because obviously you're in another conference. I wouldn't be saying that if you were still in the CAA, but, go get them this year. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us this evening. Wow. I'm just humbled to have had the opportunity to spend 20 minutes with you. So I hope our listeners enjoyed it as much as I did. Do me a favor, will you please?
Yeah.
Will you give me the opportunity to call you back throughout the course of the spring, get an update on your team and you, and we'll stay in touch. Is that fair?
Coach, anytime. You know that.
Shawn, thanks very much for being a part of our podcast. Look forward to talking with you again. Have a great spring and good luck to the Rams, all right?
Good luck to you, Coach. Take care.
Talk to you soon. Bye-bye. My next guest is Steve Farley, former head coach at Butler University, one of my favorites, one of my closest friends, one of my brothers in baseball, and the guy that gave me my start coaching in college baseball way back in 1993. Steve has been around the block a couple times, had a very successful career as a college baseball coach. I watched him put a number of people into professional baseball. We rode the tails of a couple kids all the way to the big leagues. He's a left-handed pitcher. 19 was his number, but he's number 1 in my heart. Let me introduce you to Steve Farley, former head baseball coach at Butler University. Steve, how you doing tonight?
Big Daddy, I'm doing great. I'm doing great. We got two 63-year-old guys on the phone. You're still in your prime.
You got that right. And I know if there's a left-handed call to the bullpen, I know who I would want to come out of there. Ladies and gentlemen, you have never seen this young man throw, but he is. I can bet you that if I was to put him on Rapsodo right now, he would still have one of the top spin rates of a breaking ball known to mankind at 63 years young. You do not want to face this character when he's pitching.
Well, I can throw a lot more strikes when I was a coach than I think than I did when I was out there left-handed on the mound at the University of Minnesota. I also know I saw you hit 6 home runs on 6 swings during batting practice, me throwing some BP to you. So this guy can still swing the stick.
Well, I'd like to think that I could, but you want to know a true Tyner fact? The last home run I hit in BP was actually at the University of Virginia, and that would be 2016. So I'm in a 5-year drought.
Now you're pacing yourself.
Yeah, that's what I keep telling myself too. But you know what? I'm going to end up in probably traction on Monday because I'm going down for BP at Miami this weekend. I didn't get to take BP the last time, but you can damn well bet you I'm swinging it this weekend.
Hey, I'm really excited for you going down there. I had a thrill a couple times at Butler where, one time we actually made the NCAA tournament, played in a regional that was hosted up there in Minneapolis. So I'm pretty cool that I'm throwing batting practice on the same field that I pitched at. And then I think probably a decade after that, maybe 2010, something like that, we scheduled a weekend series up there back when they played in the Metrodome. They had a pretty good deal with the Twins, where the Gophers played indoors in the Dome. And, John Anderson, the legendary coach up there, who's still up there, probably in his 40-something season, but to let us come up there and play, and that was pretty special to go up there and play your old stomping ground. So I'm really excited for you to head down there with the Canes this coming weekend.
Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate that. Let's speak to that for just a second. You're from River Falls, Wisconsin, correct?
That's right.
Your father was a football coach, as well as being a gifted left-handed pitcher who ended up at the University of Minnesota. You are also quite the accomplished punter and kicker, correct?
Well, back in the day, I played high school quarterback. I wasn't going to be good enough to play quarterback and get hired in high school, but I think you were a field goal kicker. You were a good athlete as well. But punting is one of the things I really love doing. Hitting a home run or throwing a no-hitter, I think I still love hitting a perfect spiral, a 40-yard, 50-yard punt still was pretty special to me as an athlete.
In our younger days at Butler, we always had just a little bit of competitive nature between me, him, and the other assistant coaches. And I remember standing out on that one practice facility, football field, soccer field combo, and you dropped the football on your foot and kicked it about 55, 60 yards with a perfect spiral. And I turned around and I said, dude, you're in the wrong profession. Oh, my gosh, that was beautiful. Your father ran kicking camps. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, my dad was really an innovative guy. He was kind of a 98-pound weakling in 9th grade, never really played high school football. Was a great baseball player, pitched in the minor leagues for the Baltimore Orioles for a while, and then came back and finished up his degree at the University of Illinois. I think he helped out the baseball team there a little bit. But when he got done, he really took an interest in football and went through the high school ranks, several different high school programs, always wanted to be a college coach. And up there in Wisconsin, there's a really good state university conference, Division III schools, and he really lucked out. He got to know the staff at the University of Oklahoma back with Barry Switzer and some of those high-powered guys where they were running the wishbone. So my dad gave it a try, became a very innovative football guy, did real well running those wishbone offenses. But I think probably the first guy in the country to come up with his own plan for a kicking punting camp, kind of a special league deal. Had some of the best punters and kickers in the country, high school kids that came in and college guys that came in there. And it was really a big deal. Sports Illustrated had him in a magazine article and several of the TV stations up there. So pretty sharp guy. And then he also went one better. Thank heavens for me, it turned my whole baseball career around. One year he said, Steve, let's do an indoor baseball hitting camp. They had an indoor hockey arena up there that wasn't getting any use in the summer. So he had the ATEC, one of the baseball companies, donate probably 10 or 12 pitching machines. And thank heavens for me, he hired a guy named Jerry Kindle, a Hall of Fame coach from the University of Arizona, to be his main speaker. So I was just a young guy trying to figure out what I was going to do, and got to be a counselor there at the camp and hit it off with Coach Kindle. And was asked to be the graduate assistant down there with him in Tucson. So great start to my coaching career. But thank heavens for my dad. Did a lot of great camps and a very innovative coach.
Absolutely. And so you start your coaching career down in Arizona, and then from Arizona to Army?
Went to pitching coach at West Point out of U.S. Military Academy. Quite a place, quite a unique 3 years for me. Something I never would trade. That was an awesome time.
You got to coach with Dan Roberts, Robin Roberts' son, correct?
That's right. Dan and I were a good combination, and I was there for 3 seasons. We went from like last to first, and had set the school record for wins, and then looking for the next challenge. Kind of wanted to be a head coach, and took a job in a small school down in Elkins, West Virginia. I'm not sure you can get there from here, but went down to Davis and Elkins College, and had another unique experience down there as a head coach down there in the Appalachian Mountains.
Ran across somebody that you ended up kind of liking, didn't you, while you were down there?
I did. It's a long story, but yeah, I actually met my future wife back at the school where my dad was coaching back in River Falls, Wisconsin. Between jobs, somewhere in one of those few months, I took a simple health class at the college there, and she was in the class, and she's 6 years younger than me, but as I headed off to coach in West Virginia, she headed off to Wyoming to be a graduate assistant out there. So it took us a couple of years to finally end up in the same city, but a neat story and a lot of great memories.
And then from Davis and Elkins to Butler, what was that like for you?
Well, my wife's from Minnesota. I grew up in Wisconsin. Kind of looking to go back closer, maybe to the Midwest, and she really wanted to do that. It's hard to pick your spots, when you're going to leave a job in coaching. You never quite know what's going to happen or when doors are going to open. But the Butler job opened up. I think I'd heard of Butler probably mainly for its basketball program. I went up and interviewed, and small private college. My dad said, "You're crazy. You're trying to coach a warm weather sport in a cold weather state at a basketball school." He said something's wrong with that combination. But I like the athletic director at Butler. He gave me a nice opportunity, and we started from scratch. And the whole key there was finding you, putting us together, and I think we really had something rolling there. And it took us a couple years, but kind of broke through the ice there after a couple, and really got things turned around. It was a lot of fun.
Well, I credit you with helping me turn my life around, obviously. And for those that don't know, we moved to Indianapolis in 1993 as a family, myself, Laura, and my 2 children. And Laura had the job. She was the major breadwinner. And I had asked her if I could go back and finish my degree. And she said, absolutely. And I said, well, while I'm doing that, could I coach baseball? And she said, absolutely, if anybody will have you. And I remember, I wrote this beautiful cover letter, and I dressed up my resume, and I sent it out to every school in Indiana because I was willing to travel. I had no idea what it would have taken or anything. And lo and behold, the only person to call me back was this guy by the name of Steve Farley at Butler University, which was in my backyard, literally in my backyard. And the first coaching staff that we put together, you want to tell the folks who it was?
I'll let you tell the story.
Myself, Steve Farley, and a gentleman by the name of Doug Schreiber, the 3 amigos. Steve would stay at Butler. Obviously, I started this nomadic coaching trail, but Doug went on to be the volunteer at Notre Dame, and then the assistant at Arizona State, and then the head coach at Purdue for a long time, then retired, then came out of retirement, and he's back at IP Fort Wayne, I believe, right?
Yep, Indiana, Fort Wayne.
We're afraid Steve's going to come out of retirement too, but right now he's found a new love. You've got this thing called pickleball. What's going on with that, Stevie?
Yeah, how about that? Well, you would have told me 5 years ago I'm going to be teaching pickleball classes and having fun playing pickleball with my wife. I would have thought you're crazy, but really good. It came at the right time as I've wrapped up college coaching and my kids are graduating from college, and what am I going to do to kind of stay in shape and stay busy, do something where I can actually do with my wife that would be fun. And we took I think probably a beginner pickleball class. My parents were retired. They lived down in Arizona, and everybody down there in Arizona and Florida, some of the southern states, the older folks are starting to play pickleball. So I'd seen it, visited my parents in Arizona, and kind of had fun with the game, and came back, like I said, took a class up here in Indiana, and kind of the rest is history. Really got going into it. There really weren't many places where you could learn how to play when I got started. And my background, like yours, I was a teacher and a coach. So after I kind of figured out the game, I went to several different parks and recreation places here close to my home here in Indianapolis, and said, hey, I think I can teach a pretty good beginner class for you. And got hired to do that for a bunch of classes, and then those intermediate classes started up, and then advanced classes. So I got my own little group right now. Lifetime Fitness here nationwide is trying to really get into pickleball. So the local Lifetime Fitness facility here, which is a beautiful state-of-the-art facility about 10 minutes from my house, the general manager said, Steve, we hear you're the pickleball guy. We'd like you to start up the program. So back in October, we started with nobody playing, and now we have over 250 players playing and having a good time. And it's really been fun to have a challenge to kind of put that program together.
That is outstanding. Outstanding. Good for you. Good for you. I can sense that energy in your voice, and it's good to hear. Obviously, when you put as much as you put into the college game for as long as you put it in, when you leave it, there is an adjustment period and a transitional period, and it sounds like you found something you love and really enjoy doing.
I think you and I really like a challenge, and we've never been in a school or coaching-wise where you inherit this dynasty and a powerhouse. So I've enjoyed those different moves I made. Coaches are, like you said, we're all pretty impressed to look at your resume, where you've been or where I've been, and all the different people we can thank along the way that helped us get where we are. Just telling people about your start at Butler. First time I mentioned, I said, who are your references? And you said Ron Frazier and Skip Bertman, two of the best coaches that ever lived. So I think you were hired on the spot, and the rest is history.
Well, I appreciate that. Let me ask you a couple tough questions, okay?
Yep.
You've been away from the game for a couple years now. You poured your heart and soul into it. What's some of the challenges that college baseball face right now, in your opinion?
I think, I don't know, I just think the rules and the NCAA, people are trying to figure out what, you've seen with basketball and football here, this whole transfer portal, and you're dealing with it now. I didn't have to deal with as much of that stuff back in the day when I got done. But I feel kind of like how my dad felt when he kind of got out of coaching as well. We're just too much politics sometimes, and we understand how important budgets are, and the almighty dollar is still the key. Most of us in our programs, and where you are now, where I was at Butler, there wouldn't have been a baseball team if there wasn't a successful basketball program. So Division I wise, you're only as good as your basketball team or your football team, or maybe you've got a great athletic director who kind of sees the big picture. But that was the scary part for me. I think I like to challenge, but somewhere you're hoping your administrators can throw you a bone and at least give you a fighting chance. As a coach at Butler, I never wanted more than anybody else in the league, but I sure didn't enjoy having the lowest budget in the league or the lowest number of scholarships or things like that. You've done a great job fighting through that battle right now where you're at. So things have changed. I'm sure some things will still stay the same, but I think now kind of like all these high school kids or college kids, they're like free agents. They can just go to the highest bidder. They can move around, and I guess that's okay because college coaches have had a chance to do that as well. But I think it's been more of a basketball, football thing. But baseball's right there. Baseball's been a popular game, a huge amount of growth in the college game. So I'm happy to see all these neat things happening, but some of it still, I guess, looking back now, it's kind of scary to me. And what I miss is sitting there, sitting on a bucket, working with a kid on a batting team, or sitting in the bullpen where I actually could do coaching. As you've seen as a head coach, I think the problem is all the other stuff, kind of in quotations. It's not so much the coaching, which we got into it for, but now it's all the other things, all those other things you got to take care of, all the details, and all the time in your day spent on those things that aren't working with the players. So I probably got out at the right time. Maybe I would have had a heart attack if I stayed in any longer. But yeah, a lot of good memories for me, and a lot of positive things I can sure say about all the things we did.
I agree, and you're right. Everybody always wants this chair. Somebody wants the head coaching chair every day, and then that coin phrase, head on a swivel. That if your head is not on a swivel at this particular stage, and you're the head coach, then you're in trouble. The assistant coach's position, which I was more than happy to be for the better part of my life, is somewhat tunnel vision. You have your responsibilities mapped out for you, and obviously you do as well as a head coach, but there are more of them. and you better be able to have a panoramic view and a full 360 if you can. Otherwise, it will envelop you and you're toast.
Like you say, those assistant coaches, those are key guys. I mean, if you can surround yourself with some people. I was never a great delegator, but as soon as I met you, it was like, Matt, you're the hitting guy. I'm not going to bother you. I'm not going to be looking over your shoulder. I trust you. And if you've got trust in your assistants, if the assistants have trust, in the players, you're trying to give them some responsibility. The team is a lot better when players take ownership instead of just the coach and barking orders like you and I know. So, you were a godsend for me at Butler, and you've had some great assistant coaches during your time here, and that's a big part of the whole plan.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. Talk to us real quick about your family. I know you're close to me now with your girls leaving the house and everything, and Lisa still a professor at Butler, correct?
Yeah, my wife's still full time. She went back and got her doctorate, so she's Dr. Farley. I have to kind of genuflect to her, making sure she knows she's the boss. But it's different. She's kind of keeping me rolling right now. She's still got the health insurance and stuff for our family. Our daughters now are both grown and both have full-time jobs. One's up near Toledo, Ohio, working up there, and the other one got a job this year down in Washington, D.C. Her boyfriend's a former Butler football player who's now done a nice job working full-time in the athletic department out at the University of Maryland. So still getting a chance to visit with them. My daughter was just here this weekend for say hello a little bit, so I got to see her. But family's important. Coaches, it's tough on coaches. When you and I are out recruiting, you should be home, and when you're home, you're thinking somebody's out there beating you on some recruit that you're supposed to be watching. So it's a double-edged sword, and it can be a crazy job. You and I love it, but man, oh man, thinking the hours that we've spent on the road and the miles put in, all those things. You just hope you can still do a good job being a good husband, a good father. And you've done that, and I'm sure I've done my best, here where I am in Indianapolis.
Yeah. Well, listen, big guy, I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to give us a couple minutes and just converse with me, man. It's so good to hear from you or talk with you. And I think back of our time at Butler, and I'd be remiss if I didn't say, give us your best Butler story. And it doesn't have to be me. It can be Nishak. It could be anybody. Just tell us your best Butler story.
I got 1,000 stories like you do. I think a lot of the guys that you and I coach would say would go back to a place where we beat University of North Carolina on a spring break trip down there in Chapel Hill. That was one of the biggest wins we'd had up to that date. And you and I were roommates, as I recall. When we went back to the hotel, you said, Coach, we got to do something nice for the players. We got to go out and have a good dinner. I said, well, you find me the spot, find me the restaurant where we can just turn it loose. And that became a famous place called Squid's. We went in. That was the first, without me, I'd kind of forgotten. That was the week that my athletic director had given me a credit card for the first time. I finally had a Butler credit card. Otherwise, I walked around full of thousands of dollars of cash, paying all the meals and all the things we were doing. But when I finally got done to that meal at Squid's, whatever the tab was, $600 or $700, which was a pretty big deal back then, I realized I only brought about $400 in my wallet. So I thought, I'm going to be washing dishes for a couple of weeks here to make it up. And then I realized I had the magic credit card, so I paid all my cash and then put the rest of it on a credit card. And the boys on the Butler baseball team had a wonderful meal and a wonderful dessert. And I think I got read the riot act by the Butler financial guy, the athletic guy, saying when I came back, he said, how can you justify spending all that money? I said, well, hell, it was a big win. I couldn't do it again.
Yeah, back in the 90s, dropping $600 on a meal wasn't apropos, but you're right, it was a big win. I remember that Brandon Lee shoved that night, and we took care of the Tar Heels. They didn't even know who Butler University was, but they did when we left, didn't they?
Well, they had a damn good team. I remember I intentionally had a pitchers meeting during their batting practice for North Carolina. They were hitting so many home runs during batting practice, I didn't want our pitchers to watch batting practice. So something good happened. Again, we had a great pitcher in the mound, like you said. One of our players, Matt Farley, hit a big 2-run home run, I think, late in the game. So I think it was a 3-2 or 4-3, but a great win. And all those kids in that team still remember that day.
Yeah, as I do. Big guy, thanks very much. Have a wonderful evening. I look forward to seeing you somewhere this spring, hopefully. Until our paths cross again, be well, all right?
Safe travels. Good luck against those Canes this weekend.
Thanks, Davey. We'll talk to you soon.
Take care.
All righty, bye-bye. We'll be back with you in just a second, but right now, a little word from our sponsor. Hey, well, it looks like we've got a new sponsor, and the Jungle Cat would like to thank the fine team at Capital Seaboard, the top distributor of fresh produce and seafood in the Mid-Atlantic region. Capital services the top chefs in restaurants, hotels, caterers, and kitchens from Philly to Richmond. They're a chef-driven, highest in quality company, proudly serving the region with over 90 vehicles delivering 6 days a week. And thanks very much for that sample of lump crab meat. Can't wait to dive into that after tonight's show. What do you think, Will? You ready to try some?
I'm ready.
Great. Well, thanks again to the people at Capital Seaboard for their fine and continued sponsorship. My next guest, ladies and gentlemen, is a famous Towson alumni. He has gone on to play professional baseball after springboarding from the Towson University baseball program. Brady Policelli is his name. He was one of the most decorated players in his career here, drafted by the Detroit Tigers in 2016. He left Towson as a junior and has enjoyed a pretty good professional run. But I want to welcome him to the show and walk him all the way back to his early years and what it was like and why he chose Towson. Welcome to the show, Brady. How are you?
I'm doing well, Coach Tyner. Thank you for having me. It's always good to come back and talk about my TU experience and get to catch up with you, so I appreciate you having me.
Oh, it wouldn't be right if we didn't have you. We had Richie on and Casper and Derek Hasselhoff, and now you, all guys with, some serious professional time, and it's just been fun to become more and more a part of this program. But you're a guy that was born in D.C. You lived in Walkersville, Maryland. Is that correct?
Yep. Still living there, actually. Me and my wife just bought a house here this past summer, so sticking to our roots.
Well, that's all right. Is she from Walkersville as well?
She's from the Frederick area, yeah. So she's about 15 minutes from where I grew up. So we're both locals here in Frederick.
Okay. So I'm sure you had a couple choices, and one of them was, where am I going to go and extend my either playing baseball career or my football career? You just share with me, what was your decision like? In other words, that's a fact that I didn't know about until we talked off air. You were a multi-sport athlete with a couple opportunities, correct?
Correct. Yeah, I was. I had a pretty unique college recruiting experience, to say the least. So, coming up through high school, I was a three-sport guy. I played football in the fall, winter. I played hockey, and then baseball in the spring and throughout the summer. So it was a good thing, having some different options when it came to going to school. But the recruiting process, like I said, it was kind of a unique story. So when I was, I think, a junior in high school was when Towson first scouted me. I think Coach Goddard was the coach at the time, and he had came out and watched a couple of my games, and going into my senior fall, I went on my official visit there. They offered me a scholarship, and I went home, and about a week later, I was getting ready to commit, and the year was 2013. I don't know if anyone remembers this, but that was the year they implemented the Title IX stuff, and Towson baseball program was actually on the chopping block. So a week after my visit, I'm ready to commit, and I get a phone call from Coach Gottlieb and basically says, hey, sorry about this, but we're not going to have a team next year, so I wish you the best of luck, and it was nice getting to meet you. So in my mind, I'm going, oh, man, well, I'm already a senior here and thought I had my decision made, and I guess it's time to get back to the drawing board. So that winter of my senior year of high school, I went to an indoor camp at, I think, Georgetown Prep it was, and they were hosting a bunch of different schools to try and get some late recruits there, and I was one of those guys. And at the time, the Longwood University coach, I guess, liked what he saw in me, and invited me on a visit there. So I went down there. I think they're in the Big South Conference, and went down there with my father and visited the school and decided that was my next best option. So I verbally committed there, and I think that might have been in, maybe January. And I made my commitment, and a couple months later, they sent me my letter of intent to sign. And right as I was getting ready to do that, there was a rumor that Towson baseball was going to get their program back. They were going to get I think a pretty healthy grant from the governor. It was something along those sorts. And my letter of intent to sign came in the mail, and I heard that rumor, so I held off for a couple weeks. And I sound bad saying this now, but I was getting calls from the Longwood coach left and right asking why I hadn't signed yet. And I really just kept blaming it on the finance part, trying to figure out what I was going to do student loan wise, taking those loans out, because it was a pretty expensive school. But anyway, so I held off, and a couple of weeks later, I get a call from Coach Goddard that said, "Hey, I see you haven't signed yet, and your offer is back on the table with us. If you've already made other plans, I respect that, but we'd love to have you here." And right then and there on the spot, I said, "Hey, I'm in." So Towson was always my number one school I wanted to go to. So I had to make a call to Longwood and explain that I was going to have to decommit. I felt bad at the time, but it ended up working out pretty well. And spring of my senior year, pretty late, but I decided I was going to go to Towson University. So that was my route there. But relating back to the football aspect, actually, when I went on my initial visit to Towson, a few days after that, I got a phone call from Coach Goddard, and he goes, "Hey, I just got a phone call from Coach Ambrose, the football coach here, and apparently they're recruiting you to come here as a kicker. Is that so?" I told him, I was just like, "Well, I guess that was a possibility." So he goes, "Hey, I respect that, but I really want you to commit to either one or the other if you're coming here to play baseball with some baseball money." So I had to make that decision, which, in all honesty, I figured I had a better chance of playing in the MLB than the NFL. So I decided to play baseball, and like I said, thankfully it worked out for me. But man, that was a crazy year there, that senior year of high school, trying to make that decision on where I wanted to go. But I'm glad I did. I wouldn't have changed it for the world, and here we are now.
Well, and I'm sure that Towson is very happy that you decided to push that commitment to Longwood back just a bit. Quick question for you for football: punter or place kicker?
I was a place kicker. I did punt at the time. I wasn't a great punter, but I was also a quarterback. We ran a lot of option style offense throughout my time playing football, so I ran a lot. So it lined me up as a punter, and I'd have to read the defense if I either kind of put a lousy kick into it, or if I'd take that snap and run to the right or left. So it was cool, but I was much better as a place kicker. I think that would have been my best route if it came to college football.
As I've always said, if I had it to do over again, I probably would have paid more attention to my kicking as well. Your career and mine sounds a lot alike. I did the same thing: quarterback, punt, and place kick. What was your longest field goal? Did you kick any?
In high school, my longest might have been close to 40 yards. It wasn't. I had a good boot on me, though. It was funny. I think it was last fall. I actually have the video up on Instagram. I went back out to see if I still had it, and I was making them from 60 to 63 was my longest that day up at Oakdale High School. So I still got it. That was when the COVID time was coming around, and I thought maybe an XFL tryout was in the future, but thankfully I avoided that and didn't have to go that far with things. But yeah, I like to think I still got it.
Well, you kicking 60-yard field goals, I'm going to put you in that category that says, yeah, I think you do.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Probably had a little bit, that leg strength probably had a little bit to do with hockey playing also, right?
No doubt about it. That's one thing you can ask anyone close to me. I credit all my leg strength to those 13 years of ice hockey. There was nothing like it, man. The conditioning that went into it and just the power it builds in your lower half, it's unbelievable. There's really nothing that compares to it. I know some other hockey players would probably agree with me there, but I definitely correlate that to my leg strength and my speed, no doubt about it.
Cool. So you come to Towson, you come in here and you play years 14, 15, and 16 for Coach Gottlieb. What was your experience like here at Towson?
I'm sorry, say that again. I think my phone just went out.
You come to Towson in 14, 15, and 16. You're playing with Coach Gottlieb and a great group of guys. What was your experience like here at Towson?
It was awesome. Like we spoke about before, the previous year was the year they went on and won the regional, won the conference and went to regionals, and I think it was 7 out of the 8 position players returned that following year, and I was fortunate enough to end up starting my freshman year. So being on the field with a lot of those seniors that had come back and getting to play side by side with them and have them kind of teach me the ways was unbelievably helpful. It was such a good experience for me. And they kind of took me under their wing and showed me how to improve my game and how to develop and what it's like to play at that kind of level. And I felt like from that point, the following year going into my sophomore season, I felt like I was a junior or senior by that time, just from the mental standpoint, knowing what it took to play at that level. So it was a blast though. And then, my freshman and sophomore year, I did okay number wise. I mean, I like to think I played better than my numbers showed, but I knew I had a chance to, move on and play at the next level if I could just put a few things together here and there, and worked a little bit, with Coach Gottlieb on my hitting, and went down and played in the Coastal Plains League that summer leading up to my junior year, and came back and was able to turn it on. That was the year I got to play with Richie also, and it was funny, for him being a freshman, he also made me a better player. Me and him being up the middle, I think I was at shortstop and he was at second base for most of that season, and just developing that relationship with another guy that has the same same dream and goal as you. At the end of the day, it definitely helps make you a better player, and helps you focus in on what that end goal is. So it was something that looking back, I'm unbelievably thankful for the opportunity.
Well, that end goal was to play professional baseball, and in 2016 you got the call. What was that like?
I got the call, yeah. It was for one of the best days of my life, man. It was a stressful few days in that draft. It's something that it's so exciting leading up to, and then it's just a waiting game. You sit by your phone and twiddle your thumbs for a few days until you get that call, and you see round and round go by before your name gets called. It makes you sweat a little bit, no doubt about it. But getting that phone call, it's like a huge weight lifted off your shoulders for a few hours, and then you realize, hey, it's go time. Now it's time to get back into doing what you do best.
Absolutely. I remember for myself, we were actually at the World Series, and only the top 3 rounds were publicized. So if you were drafted any time after that, if you were still playing, you were not told until you were eliminated. So, yeah, I've got first and second rounders and third rounders that I'm playing with, and we're all happy for them, but I'm sitting there going, what about me? And it thankfully it worked out. I mean, we got eliminated on a Friday, and that Saturday morning I got the call from the Orioles that said I'd been drafted in the 9th round. My question for you is this.
Yeah.
Did you know the Tigers were that interested in you? Do you have a favorite team, and were you hoping for somebody else?
So, what's funny with the Tigers is I did 2 pre-draft workouts. I did one for the LA Dodgers, and then I did one for the Detroit Tigers. And being honest, the Dodgers showed more interest leading up to the draft in the sense of communicating with the scouts, and from what I was hearing from my advisor at the time, and after their pre-draft workout, I had a good showing, and heard from I think it was another scout in the organization. I was a little higher up, and then I think it was a week later, I went to the Detroit workout, and I had a good showing there as well. And the scout that invited me there, he told me I did everything I needed to do, and they'll be in touch, and that was it. I think that might have been like a week and a half leading up to the draft. I didn't hear from them, so honestly I had no clue that they were still even interested. It was kind of a weird thing, they tell me you're doing everything right, and they liked what they saw, and then I don't hear from them for a week and a half. So when it comes to if there was a certain team I wanted to play for, I grew up a diehard Orioles fan, just being a local guy, and I think every kid might dream of playing for their hometown team at some point. So that was always a thought in the back of my mind. But when the time comes, you really just hope to get picked up by any team that you feel is going to appreciate you. And I felt that by the Tigers at the time, believe it or not, still. So it worked out well. It did. And if LA had taken me, it would have been great too. I don't know where I'd be right now, but I can't complain. That's for sure. I can't complain.
Well, I think you're right. I mean, to just have the opportunity, we pick up the glove and the baseball bat the very first time when we see ourselves in the big leagues, but you don't necessarily know what that uniform's going to be, and it starts with an opportunity, and then it goes from there. And like you, I worked out for the Dodgers and the Tigers, and
Really?
yeah, and had no idea the Orioles were even interested in me at all. And then to get the call and to be notified that I was drafted by the Orioles, I just kind of scratched my head and said, how did this happen? But okay. And I mean, when you look back and every Major League Baseball club has a storied past, and me as a kid, unfortunately, I grew up rooting against the Orioles. I was pulling for the amazing Mets in 1969, and I mean, I was pulling for the Pittsburgh Pirates in 1979. And then to get drafted by them, I was like, oh, I better flip the script, I mean, did you become a Tiger fan once you were selected?
Oh, yeah. I flipped that switch real quick. I still have that sweet spot in my heart for the Orioles. I think I always will put them at the top, the team that I like to root for the most. But, I'm sure you know how it works. You become a fan of the team you play for real quick, and you go in there and you start hearing all these, historic names. And I started hearing about these historic names of guys that have, played throughout Tigers history, and I'm kind of scratching my head like, huh? Just because, you never tend to look at those guys just because you're not rooting for that team. So I had to learn about them real quick, or I was going to have a wake-up call there. So I had to get into the history books as soon as I got drafted, without a doubt.
Well, I had the benefit of having a friend in the front office with the Tigers, and he kept me posted in regard to your travels and where you were headed and what you were doing. Jim McHugh, I don't know if you recall that name.
Oh, I love Jim. He was an all-time guy. He was the very first guy I actually met. I got off the plane the next day after the draft, and he was the guy that had picked me up. He was actually an intern at the time. He picked me up from the Tampa airport and drove me into Tiger Town, and he was the first guy I got to meet. And throughout my career, that I know this will be the first year he's not with the Tigers anymore. I think he's with the Padres now, but he was awesome. Anytime I ever needed something, or when it came to travel or video, if I texted Jim, he would text me back within seconds with whatever I needed. So I got nothing but good things to say about him. All-time guy.
Funny how baseball travels, the degrees of separation starts to close in on you, doesn't it? I mean, I know it's just amazing. What a brotherhood we're a part of, and I'm so happy to still be involved, and especially at this level, as I'm sure, you've got some great contacts as well.
Yeah, it's definitely taken me to places I could never imagine.
Some things that people don't realize was that the COVID year actually just decimated the minor leagues for professional baseball. And in your life, you were selected as an extra, which kept you in the game. But as far as development goes, share with us what that year was like and how you got, picked, or you became a utility guy, which really raised your stock with Detroit. What happened? And shed some light on that for us, if you would.
Yeah, I'm sure that was a crazy time for everybody, to say the least, and when it comes to the baseball world, it was, like you said, I mean, it hit some guys in the minor league system very hard, and unfortunately I was, selected to the 60-man roster that they had at the time, which, for those who don't know, it was just that summer when the big league season still went on, and they didn't have fans in the stands, and minor league season didn't go on. They still had a separate roster of guys that were basically an extra option to get called up in the case that they needed somebody. So I was a part of that alternate site. That was it was at our AAA stadium, actually, in Toledo, which was only about 45-50 minutes from Detroit. So I was selected to that roster. Went and basically had a full summer of just the development process. We would inter squad just about every day, take live ABs, work on our fundamentals. And for me being a utility guy, I was working on a little bit of everything. It was actually a huge help for me because I was able to basically take a whole summer and break down each position with a lot of focus and intensity. If I was playing third base or shortstop or second or any of the outfield positions, and specifically my catching, just having that extra time to work on those things with some of the best players in the world, are on that 60-man roster, believe it or not. So getting to spend that time throughout that summer, for me, it actually ended up being a big help, I thought. Now, would it have helped more having an actual season? I'm sure. But to be one of those guys that didn't have to, just go home for the summer and figure it out on their own, I was very, very blessed to be a part of that.
Absolutely. And it was, like you said, it was just a wacky year for baseball. It was a wacky year for life.
Crazy.
So fast forward, where are we at right now? You're sitting tight. Has there been a little movement in the Tiger organization?
Yeah, just sitting tight right now. As of right now, I'm just going down to minor league camp on, I think March 10th is my report date. I'll go with pitchers and catchers, and I know some guys are down there right now with like their mini camp. But until MLB figures out their thing, I guess I'm just hanging tight and getting ready for the upcoming minor league season. I guess that's all I really can do. That's what I'm being advised to do. So I'm just kind of rolling with it. I'm trying to have the mental and physical approach that is the same as any other season. I just got to show up as ready as I can be and have a big year no matter where I'm put. And after this, I'll be a free agent. So I'll get to explore my options, whether that means staying with Detroit or going to another team. I guess we'll see when the season ends. But as of right now, just kind of hanging tight with my wife here at home and hitting just about every day and staying ready.
Well, from all of us here at Towson University, we wish you the best. We want you to go down there and take full advantage of this opportunity. We'd love to see you in the big leagues this year. Obviously, that's a good get if you can make it there. We'd love to have you, but wherever you end up, nothing but success for you. Thanks very much for coming on the show. Hopefully, you'll give us an opportunity to check back in with you maybe once this work stoppage has come to an end and we're playing baseball again. Fair enough?
Oh, yeah. Awesome. I look forward to it. And again, I appreciate you having me on. And I wish you guys the best of luck the remainder of this season. I try and follow you guys just about every single game. I'm checking in on Twitter and stuff. So I'm looking forward to following you guys for the rest of the year.
You got it, big guy. Take care. Thanks again.
Thanks, Coach Shiner. Appreciate it.
We'll see you. Bye-bye. Well, that closes it up, Will, for week number 5. Week number 5, ladies and gentlemen. Who would have thunk? Well, we're welcoming a new athletic director here to Towson University, and he starts on March 28th. Hopefully we can get him on the show. Steve Eichenbrot, who is just a fine gentleman and super Christian, so we look forward to having him as the leader of our team here. Comes from the University of South Carolina. It's going to be great. With him in a leadership role here. So like I said, we'll try to get him on the podcast pretty soon. My thanks to all of our guests today, Tony Baldwin, Shawn Stiffler, Steve Farley, and most importantly, Brady Policelli. Good luck and thank you very much for those fine gentlemen coming on and sharing our conversational tone with all of our listeners here. I want to thank our sponsors again for providing us an opportunity to keep the lights on and the bills paid. We really appreciate your opportunity. And of course, we're looking forward to having anybody and everybody continue to help us grow. Tag us, forward us, let your friends know about us. We want to share the Towson brand with those that want to listen to us, and hope to see you at a game really soon. And as we continue, can't leave a broadcast, can't leave a podcast without saying, and paying tribute to my late wife. Be the change you want to be in the world, fellas. We've got so many things going on right now that just doesn't need to be happening, and I think if we can all, just for a moment, maybe go to prayer together, pray for those fine folks in Ukraine, and hopefully see if we can't pull our world back together. Maybe we could do it if we put a little emphasis on the power of prayer. Until we see each other and until we hear each other again, try to be the change in the world that you want to see. Love you all. Peace to each and every one of you. Have a great week, ladies and gentlemen. Talk to you soon.
Do you have any questions you wish for us to discuss? Anything you want to talk about? Feel free to email us at mtyner@towson.edu. That's mtyner@towson.edu or wprich1@students.towson.edu. That's wprich1@students.towson.edu.